Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our June 12th meeting of the Board of Education. I'm Kate Borninski. I wanted to let everyone know that we actually have two meetings tonight. The first meeting starting right now is our budget hearing. And then at 7:30, we will be having our regular board meeting. So I will be asking for citizens' comments twice tonight. The first time I ask for citizens' comments, will be during the budget hearing. Those, we're asking for comments only on the budget at that time. And then later, during the regular board meeting, we'll have another opportunity for citizens' comments on any topic. And I'd like to welcome my fellow board members and ask them to introduce themselves, starting on my left.
Good evening, everybody. Doug Brooks, thanks for coming out tonight.
Patty McCoy, thanks for being here.
Good
evening. School's almost out.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming out tonight. I'm Kim Crouch.
Good evening. I'm Anupam Chugsidhu. Thanks for coming out.
I'm Patricia Mullen, and I'd like to thank the administration, faculty, and staff of Plymouth Canton Schools for a wonderful graduation for my son, as well as all the other graduates this past Sunday. So thank you all the people behind the scenes that do all the wonderful work that they did. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Merritt, would you like to introduce your staff?
Good evening and welcome. Glad to see so many people here this evening, even though school is almost out. I would like to begin by introducing my assistant, Elizabeth Adams, as well as Charlie Jones, the man behind the scenes that captures these moments for us so that the community can see these meetings when they're not able to attend. I'll have Pam introduce herself and go around from there.
Good evening, Pam Yancey. I'm the Interim Chief Finance and Operations Officer.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Liz Vartanian-Gibbs, Assistant Superintendent, Human Resources.
Good evening. Kurt Tiskowitz, Executive Director of Student Service. Thanks for coming out tonight.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mike Bender, the Chief Academic Officer.
Hello, Nick Brandon, Director of Communications.
Good evening. Heather Colombo, President, Education Association.
Okay. Thank you. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. So at this time, we will have our budget hearing presentation. Monica, do you want to introduce? Or just, we'll go right to Pam.
Oh, okay. Good evening.
You're looking for Pat, huh?
I know, he's not here.
I said you were looking for Pat to
Yeah,
introduce
where's
it.
he? I mean, he always introduces it. Bing bong, we're done. Okay, so tonight we're going to look at the proposed budget for fiscal year 2018-19. This is pretty much the same as the initial budget presentation, but we're going to talk a little bit about the millages. So we'll look at a financial update for fiscal year 18's current situation and 19's outlook. We'll look at the millage rates and then the fiscal year 2019 proposed budget. For the financial update, pretty much the district is projected to end fiscal year 2017-18 within budget or a little better. And any purchases made utilizing the 17-18 funds that have not been received and purchase orders have been put on, we will be assigning. And there's a resolution on this evening's agenda to finalize that. For fiscal year 18-19 outlook, the state aid foundation increase of $230 per pupil was built into the budget like we had talked about before. Potentially it could be $240. This is built in at $230. The enhancement millage is included in the operating income. The MIPSR's rate increase is 0.62%, and there's a 3.3 healthcare hard cap increase. Then we'll look at the millage rates. The operating millage remains at 18. This is the only direct operational millage the district receives, is the 18 mills levied on non-homestead. There's no real benefit of operational millage since the state deducts levy from our per pupil funding allowance, so you're always going to get the same amount no matter what. However, if we don't levy the 18 mills, the state deducts the equivalent dollars from our pupil funding. There is a Headley rollback, but we don't have an impact as we have 20 mills. So there's plenty of room, and we'll be able to levy the 18 mills. Our debt millage going forward is going to be 4.0253. There was an increase in the assessed valuation that impacted it. This is used to pay the annual principal and interest payments on voters-approved bond issues. It can't be used for day-to-day operations. We're required by law to levy the necessary millage to make annual payments. Voters don't approve the millage amount, just the bond dollar amount, since the millage and will vary from year to year based on the total taxable value of the district and the amount of the annual bond payments. The fiscal year 2018-19 budget, again, we've gone over the process, but if there's anyone new, the assumptions and calendar were developed and presented to the board in January. The budget requests were submitted to the finance department. We reviewed those requests and met with the appropriate budget center manager. The initial budget was developed. The superintendent core reviewed the initial budget, and then we had the budget transformation, which is the district's collaborative process to balance the budget and also understand what the needs are of the district and what we need to do to go forward to support the dynamic plan. Then we have a core review and a leaders update, which we've done. Some of the budget highlights. This year, the budget, again, was based on a stable enrollment projections. We used fall of 2017, rolled over and adjusted for school of choice. The number we're using is the 17,517.77. State aid foundation increase again of $230 per pupil. The $25 per high school student is continued. Change in settlement adjustment for Act 18 Center program revenue is built in. Grants were held at fiscal year 2018 levels. There was a reduction in one-time MIPSR funding for early retirement buy-downs, and there was a reduction for one-time Act 18 distribution of excess funds. These are some of the expenditure highlights. There's a MIPSR rate increase, which we discussed, 0.62%. Hard cap increase of 3.3%. Dental insurance cost increase of 4.4%. Vision remained flat. We are hiring a director of school safety and security in 18-19, a human resource compliance manager, maintenance semi-skilled ground staff, custodial pilot. We're increasing the service level. And again, this is what we talked about, having 3 additional FTEs in the high school, mainly for bathroom cleanliness. The transportation contractual increase, and we have just renewed a 3-year contract with Durham. The PCEA tentative agreement is in here for the teachers. The rest of them, I believe, we have some TAs, and they will probably come on the 26th. There's a reserve for a new accounting system in the budget, facility utilization study, which is the 10-year plan that we're going to look at doing, and P-CCS video services. Again, I just want to remind you, the italic information are the results from the transformation process. Additional highlights, and this is all school-based, and most of this came out of the transformation, is 3 new EL teachers, a psychologist, 1.5 social workers, behavior specialists, PSEP 504 coordinator, PSEP security guard, IB coordinator, resource room teacher, goals program, part-time secretary, and this is so they have coverage, because right now they don't have coverage for the whole day. Summer Chromebook distribution, these are extra hours so that we can get the Chromebooks to the students and let them keep them longer. EL language line services, and this was for translation services. IB testing hours, PSEP academic support, and this is for weekends and events. PSEP Journeys program, summer intake. Copier paper allowance by school, and what we talked about there was this is additional money that will add on to the discretionary funding so that their discretionary truly is discretionary. And capital allocation by school, it's $10,000 per school for capital needs. These are some of the other things. This will be funded by the bond. Playground for elementary school for 150, furniture for elementary schools in the amount of 200,000. Funded by 31A, math 180 teacher, .40 FTE increase in the middle schools for each middle school. And then these are some of the things that were funded by the 17-18, which will help us for budgeting next year. Textbooks for next year, musical instruments, PSEP security vehicles, snowplow, loader, art equipment, physical education equipment, Chromebooks, and improvement to PSEP distant learning lab. This is the general fund summary. Let me just get it, I can see it better here. Okay. So all of the stuff in the highlights we have discussed are included. We're still negotiating. Right now, we're at a net change in fund balance of a negative 1.2 million. And then when we do finalize our negotiations, that'll be included in the budget. Also, what'll happen is, depending on what does come in from the purchase orders that have been placed, those will be assigned for next year, and you'll see that in the budget amendment. These are the proposed budget for other funds. These are our capital project funds. So we have the Athletic Capital Improvement Fund, which is going down some. This is what the plans we know to date. Right now, what they're planning on doing. One thing is the Canton floor, gym floor, which was voted on last board meeting. Then the bond capital improvement funds for 2013 and 2015. These are projected expenditures. The 2013 bond project's at 3.5 million. That's what we're proposing using for some of that, not some of that, all of that, which will cover part of the security system, trying to take it out of the bond versus the general fund. The 2015 bond projects, again, that's our summer projects, plus there's some security in there, and Tanger and school buses. The capital improvement fund, what this fund was, is, if you recall, originally it was called the rainy day fund, and then from the sale of our buildings, this is what we were required to set aside and spend according to all the different bonds. That 568 pretty much is our cafeteria tables that we're replacing. I know you voted on it quite a while ago, but that'll be summer work, so it'll really be paid for next year. We'll be out of that. And then we're looking for, Patrick was really interested in spending that down. So as we bring bond projects to you, we'll try to spend that capital improvement fund down before we go to the 13 and 15 bond project, if everybody agrees. Technology device replacement fund. This was a set aside that had existed when you started your bring your own devices. Originally, you were setting aside about $250,000 a year. We stopped doing that, thinking that in the future we probably would take that out of a bond or something, or we would go to bring your own versus one-to-one. But that reserve still exists. Nichols Trust Fund. This is a small fund that's meant for library books that's been around for quite a while. We're hoping to finalize a plan and expend that money for some of the schools this year. Debt Service Fund is what it is. It's the funds that pay our principal and interest on our debt service. That's what the 4 mills covers. Internal Service Fund, these are just in and out. This is our insurance, pretty much our insurance fund. And then our special revenue funds. Act 18 Center Program Fund, Community Service Fund, Food Service Fund, and funded project funds. Most of the grants we just held at this year's levels. Any questions? This will come back to you June 26th for adoption. And what we'll see on June 26th is a reconciliation from this budget to our final. So by that time, we should know what comes in from our purchases and if there's any changes or updates on revenue or expenditures, from the state.
I had a couple of things I
Okay.
wanted to clarify. Does anybody else have questions first?
I went to the meeting.
Member Mullen?
I just have one question to clarify. You said the state has approved 230 per student. They've also approved an additional 25 per high school, so it's...
No, I didn't say that they had approved it. That's what's there right now with we've got the Senate, the House, and the governor, and two of them are recommending 230, one's recommending 240. It could end up being 240. Right now, that's the forecast. Unless
Coming
you've
out of
seen
committee
something-
where.
Coming
yeah,
out, okay.
It's at 240 right now.
And then where's
yeah.
that $25?
Pardon, it's they've all confirmed
Yeah,
240?
120 to 240 right now, so waiting.
Oh, I
on
thought you said,
numbers.
but it
Yeah.
hasn't been confirmed at
waiting on
240.
numbers.
Okay,
That's right.
okay.
Okay, and then $25 on top of that
For
for
high
high school
school,
students,
right.
so 265.
Well, the 25 is in this year's budget.
in
We
this
just continued it. So it's not like it's an increase. It happened this year. In
Okay,
17, 18, we just continued it. But that's in the budget,
okay,
okay?
okay, thank you.
So when we look at the slide for the debt millage, originally, when the bond was passed, we were at 4.1 mils. And you said this has gone down, I think, due to increased taxable values?
Yes.
Okay, so that's good news, I think, for homeowners. And I'm hoping that the board can get, and you may have provided this previously, but an updated table of just what we predict the millage at in the future.
Well, as you recall, when we refunded, we had that schedule.
Yeah.
And based on that information, the mill rate wasn't supposed to go down until July 2019 because of the increased assessment. And I mean, you know, and again, it was assumptions that PFM made when they gave us that schedule. But I can even I can ask them to do an updated one to see where it really would go. So more than likely, it was supposed to be at 3.52 in July 2019. It could potentially be lower then.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, thank you. And then the other question, it was also has to do with the bond. Looking at the proposed budget, other funds, and you have capital projects funds. This is just more of a clarification. Where you say 2013 bond projects and then 2015 bond projects, I just want to clarify that.
Series 1 and Series 2.
Right, we did not have an additional bond that passed in
No.
2015. It's all the same 2013 bond, but it was
a
bonds
20
that were issued
Yeah,
in those years.
2013 issuance and 2015 issuance.
Okay,
Okay?
okay. Are there any other questions?
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. At this time, I'm looking for a motion to. Oh, yes, citizens' comments. I can't just, I'm always trying to skip ahead of that. Dalton, did you want to speak to the budget, or did you want to wait until the second time we have citizens' comments? Okay. Is there anyone who would like to speak on the budget tonight? Okay. All right, then, now I would like to get a motion to adjourn the budget hearing.
So moved.
Support.
Okay, it was moved by Member Crouch and supported by Member Brooks. All in favor of adjourning the budget hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Well, any nays? I don't hear any. Motion passes 6-0. We are not quite at 7:30, so we're going to take about 10 minutes here, and then we'll reconvene for our regular meeting.